One of the things on my Cobra that I was a little bit nervous about because I have no experience on them is the pen drive wheels. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is, normally wheels are held on by 5 or 10, depending on the model of the car, lug nuts. You put the wheel on, put the lug nuts on, torque them down, you're good to go. Cobras originally, and this car that I built in particular, uses what's called a knockoff design and a pen drive wheel, meaning that you've got this big pin that goes on that's threaded, put the wheel over that, and then you've got a single spinner knockoff that goes on that holds the wheel on. This is what they look like, of course. You've probably already seen this, but this is what they look like. Essentially, this is it. The way this is the spinner that holds the wheel onto place. Previous video you saw me put on the safety wire. That is what holds the wheel on. Now, the method that you use to actually ensure that those are tight and they don't come off the car while you're going down the road is this. It's actually a very old school and crude way of dealing with it. It's a lead hammer. This is I believe, a 3 or 4 pound hammer. Basically, you just tighten it on there and then you give the ears of that knockoff wax until it changes tone, and then allegedly it's tight enough and it should be good to go. The safety wire is not there to keep it on. The safety wire is there to act as a warning to let you know that the knockoff is coming loose. So that way you know to actually tighten them down. Of course, they also recommend you retorque these and tighten them down and check them about every 50, 100, 150 miles, depending on who you ask. I never was comfortable with this for a couple of reasons. Number one, the deep dish wheels on the back, you saw how inset the knockoff was, it's difficult to get a good whack on it with the hammer. That made me nervous. Also, I'm not exactly a brute force guy, and my ears are bad, so I never am 100% sure that I got it hit to where the tone changes and you could actually ensure that they were tight. They probably are, chances are they are, but this is your wheels you're talking about. You don't want to be going 70 miles an hour down the freeway and have a wheel fly off. That can cause a bad day. I've been looking high and low for a better way to deal with this. I've got the hammer, and as you can tell, I've been using it, but I wanted to find a better way. I did find a tool. It was enormously expensive, but we're talking safety here on a car that's many, many thousands of dollars. So I wanted to ensure that that was the case. So I finally gritted my teeth, bit the bullet, and purchased this. Now this is from a company that if you go online, it's knockoffspinnertool.com. And it turns out this is just an independent guy that manufactures this tool. It works really well, allegedly, to not only make sure that they're as tight as they're supposed to be using torque, but also they ensure that if they get seized up over time and become difficult to get off, this makes it a little easier to get it off. Now, I just received this today. This tool is nothing to sneeze at. It is $370. I opted for the 3/4 size socket attachment as opposed to the 1/2 inch, because the 3/4 size gives you a stronger wrench in case they get really, really seized into place. So I went with the bigger one. I'm just going to use it. From what I'm reading in the literature, about 200 to 250 pounds is the torque rating that they recommend on these. I have a 1/2 inch torque wrench that reaches 250 pounds, so I'm going to use that, but I am going to get myself an adapter to adapt that 1/2 inch drive torque wrench to 3/4 to fit this, and I'm also going to get a breaker bar that's a 3/4 inch breaker bar. That way I make sure that if this thing does get seized up, I've got a wrench that's going to help me get it off without breaking the wrench. Well, let's take a look at what we've got here. Getting the box out here. Comes in a bag. And you can see the logo there. Let's take a look at what we've got here. Now, I haven't gotten my adapter or my breaker bar as of yet, so that will be today's errand because I literally just got this in today. Let's see what we have here. It's a wheel chock that basically, when you jack the car up a little bit, you put this chock on there to make sure the wheel doesn't spin while you're trying to loosen or tighten the actual spinner. So that's handy. This is the 3/4 inch drive socket. And you can see that the fact that it's black, it's impact rated, which is kind of cool. This is a 46 millimeter impact socket that's 3/4 drive. I may go ahead and try to find myself a 46 millimeter 1/2 inch drive as well. That way I've got both of them. So that's kind of cool. It comes in a nice package that keeps it from rattling around. I do believe I am going to investigate, see if I can find myself a 46 millimeter 1/2 inch drive as well. That way I don't have to get the actual adapter. I'll be sure and consult Harbor Freight for that. But this is the gist of the tool. Let's take a look at this. It's bigger than I expected it to be. And I have to say, it's a nice piece. You've got protection here to keep from gouging your wheels. The socket goes onto that, and you've got undo left and undo right, because on these, which direction you tighten and loosen depends on which side of the car it's on. And allegedly this fits over the spinner. Then you hook this up and you tighten and loosen accordingly. And I have to say, this is obviously a CNC piece of aluminum, built of aluminum. That would explain why it costs what it does. And I have to say, it's very nice, very well made. Let's see how it fits on the wheel. Now basically, if I'm reading this right, this basically fits like this, and you tighten and loosen accordingly. And I have to say, it fits perfectly. This will allow me to get a torque wrench and a breakover bar, as opposed to just beating the daylights out of the ears on these. I've seen many pictures where people use the hammer and these ears break off occasionally. These things are expensive. I don't want to damage it. This way you're actually gripping all three of the ears simultaneously, and just seems to be a much better solution. I'm kind of impressed by that. Of course, I'm going to get the torque wrench and the breakover bar, and I'm going to tighten and make sure, just to see how much more tight I can get this as compared to the hammer method, because these were hammered on originally. But I think this is, even though this is an enormously expensive tool, I think it's going to be worth the investment if it saves the wheels from flying off the car. Now, in a perfect world, would I spend $370 for a tool for one car that I have that has one purpose? No, obviously not. But the fact of the matter is I looked high and low for a type of tool that does this, that isn't a hammer. This is literally the only solution I found. I found one other guy online, I don't even remember what it was, but this was some time ago, that built a tool similar to this. I don't remember the price he was asking for it, and to my knowledge, he's no longer doing that. So, this was my option for having a tool that wasn't the hammer. Considering the quality and workmanship that's going into this tool, it fits my wheels perfectly, and it will work just fine. Yeah, it was $370 plus $18 freight, but pretty cheap insurance when you consider the fact of what it's actually connecting and what it's making sure that it's tight enough. So, knockoff tool, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, knockoffspinnertool.com is where I got this. If you have a Cobra or a GT40 with the Halibran three-wing knockoffs, this is what it gets. He also sells them for the two-wing spinners that go on Jaguars and other type of cars as well. I am not endorsed or am I paid to advertise this. This is just a review that I wanted to do on this tool. So if you've got a Cobra owner out there that's using pen drive wheels, and if you're like me, you are not really comfortable with the hammer method, I think this is going to be a really, really good solution, because this thing is heavy, it's made out of billet, and it's really well made. I'm impressed. I give it 5 stars. It fits perfectly. It also has the pieces here to protect your knockoffs to make sure you don't do any damage while you're tightening and loosening them. It's a good plan. As far as the Cobra goes, we're in the midst of doing the paperwork trying to get it licensed, and that is something that we will be doing as we're allowed. Basically step 1 in that process, and I'm going to do a complete video on how to license the car. But understand when I do that, that will be for the state that I am in, and your state and or country that you're in will vary on how this actually gets done. So be sure and keep that in mind when that video is released. But as far as that goes, the first step was getting a state police officer, trooper, to come out and inspect the car, which I got that done. He filled out some paperwork, gave me the paperwork. I then had to send that and a special form off to the office for bonded titles. Since this is a factory kit car or replica car, it does not have a title. It does have a MSO, a manufacturer statement of origin, and it has a serial number on it that they assign for the frame. Step one is getting that bonded title. When I get the recommendation back from the agency that handles bonded titles, they will basically say move forward with the next step. I then have to go purchase a surety bond, which I had to do on the bonded title on the 66 Mustang, and then I can get the car titled, event assignment done, pay the sales tax, and get the tags on it. So that is the process in a nutshell, but I will go through that in detail in a future video. But in the meantime, I'm so glad. I'm not glad it cost as much as it did, but it's obviously worth it considering the craftsmanship that goes into this tool. And I'm very glad I came up with a solution that is better than hammering the thing on with a lead hammer and possibly breaking it and not getting it tight enough and all the things that go into that. So I will, of course, give you updates when I get ready to use this for real, because I do have to get the breaker bar that fits the socket that I have. I don't have any 3/4 inch drive tools, so I'm going to be sure and do that. And I'll, of course, use my torque wrench to check the torque values. I'm going to double check the figures, but from what I see in the documentation that came with the tool, it looks like this is a recommendation. Let's see, it says if you have recently used your standard hammer swing, use anti-seize on them, make a mark, blah blah blah, loosen them with the hammer swing and retighten with the torque wrench to the 200 to 220 pound torque settings to see how the marks line up. So he's recommending around 200 to 220 pounds. That is within the specs of my 1/2 inch drive torque wrench, but I wanted to be sure and get the 3/4 and get a 3/4 breaker bar. That way, if these things get seized up real good, I've got a wrench with the muscle that will enable me to actually get the thing off of there. That's important. I want to thank you for watching this video. Be sure and hit like and subscribe. We've got more content coming up. Of course, as noted, I release videos every Saturday morning, long form videos, and shorts, of course, throughout the week. So if you're enjoying the content, be sure and hit like and subscribe. Reach out to me if you have any comments. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you next time.